What's going on, friends? It's Wade for the Kingdom Report, back here with you for another Eat Disney Dining Review. And before we get grubbing, I always like to remind everybody, hey, make sure you're subscribed and that you've got that notification icon turned on so that way you are notified every time we've got new content for you. Of course, on this channel, that would be every Tuesday and Thursday, and of course, our live show on Saturday that you don't want to miss as we cover Disney parks from coast to coast. And of course, in between, you get yourself some dining reviews, yeah! And it is my pleasure to eat for you and to bring you all the details. And today we are at Walt Disney World Resort, where we are at the flagship property for Walt Disney World. This is Disney's Grand Floridian Hotel and Spa, a place that has so much to do and so many great places to eat. I like to take the friendship boat over from the Magic Kingdom, where we dock and then head on into the main lobby area. But it occurred to me that this can be really confusing if you've never done it, so I wanted to showcase to you one of the maps that they have sort of sprinkled throughout the resort. When you dock over here at the Boat Transportation Authority here in the water, you got to cross several different courtyards and a sort of central pool area before you get on over to the lobby tower itself. When you get on over to the lobby tower, you want to head on in, and to your right will be where we're going today. That's the Grand Floridian Cafe. A mix between upscale table service and quick service. It is a casual sit-down atmosphere that, unlike the rest of the Grand Floridian, really is quite casual and comfy. The rest of the Grand Floridian is kind of an upscale, and some would even say, oh, it's a little snooty for me. I like to think of it as beautiful, elegant, and just high class, and definitely Victorian style that Disney just knocks out of the park. Whenever they do anything Victorian, it's beautiful. But right next to the Grand Floridian Cafe is 1900 Park Fare, the character dining option for this resort, where in the morning it's Mary Poppins' character breakfast, and at night Cinderella takes over with her stepsisters and stepmother, and of course Prince Charming. But we're going right on over here, yep, this sort of understated entry, where we are going to dine like some regal ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. You come on into this restaurant, you look around, and you realize just how sort of beautiful and comfy it is, just how nice and pleasant the environment seems. I like to think of this more as like, yeah, it seems like something my great-grandma would have decorated. It just has that feel to it, and definitely comes off as homey, more so than the rest of the restaurants within the Grand Floridian Hotel. Now, you take a look at the menu, and you quickly realize something, don't you? Yeah, it's a brunch menu. They do an all-day brunch here, and that is why I jumped at the opportunity, because I am a huge fan of breakfast, a major fan of any place that extends out a breakfast into a lunch and combines the menu and just gives me more options, because I think those menus happen to be some of the best because you just have more to choose from. This menu has some great offerings, including the buttermilk fried chicken and waffle, which is very popular here, as well as the lobster thermidor burger. And as we flip this menu around, you're going to see that there are so many different options for specialty cocktails, as well as non-alcoholic beverages that you can choose from just to make your brunch extra special. I know that this place has so many offerings, therefore it took me 10 to 12 minutes to figure out what I wanted, but I ultimately went with the Benedict Flight, a Grand Floridian Cafe's 3 signature Benedict offering that sounded fantastic to me. I'm a huge Benedict fan, and if I could try 3, I'm going for it. My server came out right away and hooked me up with some coffee, and she gave me an entire carafe of coffee, which, can I just tell you, I love it when Disney restaurants do this. I don't have to worry about my coffee cup going empty or having to ask for a refill, because she just gives me the entire pot, basically. It says go for it, and oh, I do. One of the nice things was that my server came right back out moments later and presented me with basically an appetizer, this house biscuit that they create, and the butter, which is a marmalade orange butter that, can I just celebrate this because it is so good. I could have just eaten the butter alone. It was heavenly butter, and I took it to this warm biscuit, buttered it up, and it was a nice way to sort of start the meal experience because I wasn't anticipating it. I didn't know they did this, and I thought, I need more of this butter, which I got, by the way, after this, and I just lathered everything in it because I thought it was so good. And before my Benedict, I wanted to try something a little different, so I requested a fruit and yogurt plate that they had on the menu, and can I just tell you how stunned I was at not only the amount of fruit that came on this plate. This plate is huge, but also how delicious this fruit plate ended up being for $9. That is all that cost. That $9 plate came with this selected fruit from your pineapple, your cantaloupe, your honeydew, your bananas, and then this deep well of Greek yogurt mixed with granola and raspberries. This thing ended up being, I think, one of the biggest highlights of a breakfast experience I have had at Walt Disney World. And I know it seems really basic, right? Like, why would that be a highlight? Well, it came down to the fact that this ended up being so refreshing and really helped sort of cleanse my palate leading into the Benedict. There was something great about eating something relatively sweet, mixing that with the Greek yogurt, and then realizing, man, I'm ready to bring on the richness of an Eggs Benedict. Now, I gotta tell you, I didn't eat the entire fruit plate because the Benedicts were still coming, but along with the fruit plate you saw there came the fig cake. The fig cake ended up being something that I wasn't so sure of in the beginning, but once I took a bite, perfect complement to the sweetness that is the fruit, and I dipped that also in the Greek yogurt, and I ended up being quite full even after just a handful of bites of this fruit plate, just because there was a lot to it, and it surprised me for $9. I guess I just wasn't anticipating that. But then the main event arrived, and the Eggs Benedict Trio, the Benedict Flight, was here. Oh my goodness. First up on this list, you've got yourself the spicy chorizo Benedict and the bell pepper relish that came with it. Perfect counterpoints to each other and really elevated the entire taste of the Benedict itself. Then in the middle, you have the Lobster Benedict that features the egg along with the hollandaise, but includes a pile of lobster and, of course, several spears of asparagus in there. And then that last one being the traditional Eggs Benedict with Canadian bacon, a poached egg, and thick, rich hollandaise sauce on there as well. You'll see that the majority of these oozed the way they were supposed to. You're supposed to drench your Benedict in all of the yolky goodness, but the one in the middle, the Lobster Benedict, didn't ooze. It almost looks like the two on the sides were prepared last, and maybe the lobster one was prepared first. It was just solid. Didn't necessarily ooze for me, which didn't disappoint me or anything, but was just kind of surprising because the other two did such a great job of that. It has been kind of a mission of mine to try all the Benedicts on Disney World property at breakfast time, and trying to knock out 3 at once was definitely on my list. And upon eating each of these, I realized, and I thought it was going to be the Lobster as my number 1 winner, but I was surprised. The spicy chorizo Benedict ended up being my favorite of the 3. In fact, I just wanted to order kind of a side of chorizo after this because it was so good, and that balance of the bell pepper spice mixed with the chorizo itself was just fantastic. And I thought, man, more of that. I would have just gotten 3 Benedicts with all spicy chorizo. That would have been perfect for me. The 3 Benedicts were also accompanied by a lightly dressed salad with some tomatoes. It was perfect to balance out the heaviness of the Benedicts, just because those Benedicts in the hollandaise sauce, yeah, it can be a bit much, especially after you've eaten all the fruit and Greek yogurt you could possibly handle. Yeah, but in all honesty, anything heavier than these leaves may have been too much when you have a trio of Benedicts and all that hollandaise sauce. It's an extremely rich breakfast, and so these leaves just complemented it perfectly. You take a look at the damage, $33.86 for my coffee carafe, my fruit plate, and the Benedict Flight. This was something that, by Disney standards, not bad at all. Now, some of the reasons you may want to consider skipping this experience might just be because rope drop is too important to you. What I mean by that is you want to get to a park at opening so that you can accomplish the most amount of things. Those morning hours are critical to accomplishing a lot in a park before all the crowds arrive, more towards 11:30, noon. So that might be more important to you. Completely understand, especially since this is off the beaten path. You got to take special transportation just to get here if you're not staying here. Also, this restaurant, probably not too exciting for kids under 7. It is a little stuffy, as you could see, and definitely a place that doesn't have a whole lot going on. Might be underwhelming to kids. They might get bored easily. And there's a character buffet just steps away. So if you're a buffet fan, if you love characters, go to Mary Poppins Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Breakfast at 1900 Park Fair. It is a fantastic experience. Highly recommend that as well. Now, some of the reasons that you may want to visit the Grand Floridian Cafe might just be because the price for value here is fantastic by Disney standards and by Grand Floridian standards. This, again, is the flagship resort for the entire property at Walt Disney World, and therefore they charge the most for almost everything else. So Grand Floridian Cafe prices are on par with, I think, just average table service everywhere else. I think it's a great value. And if you're somebody who loves breakfast at lunch, well, this is a place for you. Come get your brunch on. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I adore any place that serves breakfast most of the day because I adore breakfast. And it is a beautiful setting with exceptional service. My server, absolutely fantastic. The hostess, incredible. And the runner that brought me my food couldn't have been more polite and upbeat. Everybody that I dealt with at the Grand Floridian this day happened to be on their A game, and I should expect that from the flagship resort of Walt Disney World. Okie dokie, time for the final verdict here to take everything from what I said you should consider in visiting, what you should consider if you wanted to skip, and grade it. The Kingdom Report Card grade is going to be a B+ for the Grand Floridian Cafe breakfast brunch. Highly recommended. And if this is something that maybe you are sleeping in, maybe you are at that rope drop, as I had mentioned, trying to hammer out all the attractions and experiences early and still want your breakfast, this is a really great option, especially if you're at Magic Kingdom Park. Now, this is out of the way if you're at any of the other parks. Very, very difficult to get to with all the alternative transportation you're going to need to take. Not impossible, just kind of a hassle. So all things to keep in mind if you are deciding that the Grand Floridian Cafe brunch is a place for you. Highly recommend this for maybe a resort day where you're just hanging back, staying at the pool, relaxing and resting, and you want to just do some nice meals around the property. This would be perfect for that. My friends, if you haven't done so already, highly recommend you check us out on social media at Kingdom Report Live over on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, make sure you're subscribed here to ensure that all the new content we have for you gets delivered every Tuesday, Thursday, and of course our live show every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. You don't want to miss it. We usually have in-park reports live for you on Saturdays and an entire panel discussing all things Disney parks from coast to coast. You do not want to miss it. Well, I've had a lot of fun dining with you at the Grand Floridian today. I hope you have as well. And if you have a place you'd like to have me review in terms of dining, well, let me know at WadeWire on Twitter and Instagram. It has been an absolute pleasure. I wish you a wonderful week, and this has been Wade for the Kingdom Report. See you next time.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.